As we turn to building classes, there's several things that are going to pivot all at once based off of the prior assignments. And it's going to be important to kind of walk through those a little bit at a time. Now, first of all, you're not being asked to design so much as realize the design I'm giving you. So you're going to look at the assignment description, and I'm going to give you some sort of UML diagram, a class diagram, and your first task is going to be to implement that as a class. Um, you're also going to be expected to give some initial tests to see whether this is right or not. Because if I give you exact tests, it's a little bit too easy. So you're going to have to do a spot check of the tests, and then you can submit it to Gradescope where the actual test will be. The first actual test of did you build this UML diagram as a class as I specified. So there's a little bit of some pickiness that's going to be here, and there's some flexibility that you wouldn't have to be doing it exactly as I do it, because it's not normal as a coder that somebody will hand you a UML diagram to code, but it's a good exercise, a good bridge before you're ready to go build objects and solutions of your own, in a big system. And something I'm not even trying to get you to in this class necessarily. So don't worry about that. But you do need to have a good understanding of how do I take this UML diagram and turn it into code. So hopefully you've looked at the other videos, but the name of the class is Beverage Container here. It has four attributes: brand name, injection rate, CO2 rate, container quality. And then it's going to have a constructor that takes those four things in as part of the attributes of the constructor. And then you're going to fill those in the constructor. And then you have some getters and a setter here. And then we'll call it, for lack of a better name, a toString. That's what's called in Java. But a method that takes your object and turns it into a string and prints it out for everybody else to see. So the link here, that's where this video link is going to go. By the time you see it, this link will appear. So I want to walk you through how to get this basic setup going. Now, there's not really any logic to do for this one. There'll be other exercises where you'll need to go through and realize a little bit of logic, but the structure is a big enough challenge, and I want you to see end to end how this comes about. But before we go there, let's make sure you understand generally what you're working with. So this is the problem description. We're going to be building a beverage container. And the idea of this is, let's say you're building the control logic for a gas station beverage dispenser system. And a beverage container is the tank behind the wall that holds some amount of some brand name's soda. So you might be going for your favorite soda, has its name, and it's going to inject some amount of their mix per each time it's pressed. So maybe it's 30% mix or 25% mix or whatever that gets mixed with regular water. Then it's going to have some amount of carbon dioxide that gets injected into that at some different rate. And then there's some amount it's in that container. Maybe it's a gallon container or a 5 gallon container. Well, your system's going to track how much is left based off of the injection rate and how much is flowing in and whatnot. And that's what we're building right now. We're actually going to build on the dispenser later on in another exercise, but I want to get you started with this one as a really important starting point. So that's going to get submitted to Gradescope when you're ready. But before we do that, we need to see what the class is. So the class as it stands, there's a little description here. I'll let you read that on your own. And you're going to have your own testing that's going to go inside of here. Now, I've given you a hint for what I would suggest you should be doing. That's going to happen in several of these. But notice there's no real test. You're writing the test for this as well as writing the beverage container. You're going to have to put it all together. And we're going to do that one piece at a time. But I do want you to see what it looks like, as you go through and submit it to Gradescope. So we'll practice that right away. So I'm going to run this, F5 it. As you can see, a bunch of printing, replacing stuff, none, nothing interesting happened. But I do want to run it one time because I need to generate my ledger. The bottom of the code will generate the ledger for you. So now that I have that, I can come back to, I'm not in the right place, but I go to where my files are, my classes. I'm going to go to beverage here. And I have my beverage container and my beverage container ledger. And then I need to go get my cover sheet going. So I actually haven't done the cover sheet in a while. I probably should have done this ahead of time, but here's, I think that's my cover sheet. Yep, there's my basic cover sheet. Most important thing, I have to update this to be, today is 2/6 that I'm working on. I should probably put some stuff in there for a final discussion, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to leave it. I mean, heck, I'm just doing a test submission right here, so it doesn't matter. Oops, that's my to-do list. Make that go away. I hate that about Excel. That Excel, when you open one document, it thinks you want to live in Excel forever. It doesn't do that with any other Office tool, but it's no non sequitur there. But Excel is just a pain like that. All right, so I'm going to add my cover sheet. And I'm not going to add a student name. I'm just do this as me. So I'm submitting it, and I have submitted it, and it's going to come back. It's going to run, and it's going to come back. So we'll give that a second to do that, and we'll see what's going on with that. But let me bring the code back up. So the real code I need to do is going to be setting up that class. And without that class properly set up, I'm not going to get any useful information out of the auto grader. So what I need to do is I need to, most important, have the constructor and these attributes set up and then get these methods defined. And notice none of them are defined right now in the class. And I just want you to see what the error looks like because none of them are defined in the class. So does your beverage container have everything? It says object takes no parameters. So what the heck does that possibly mean? Well, what it's saying is object, parentheses, calling the constructor takes no parameters. So even if you go through and build the rest of the methods, until you have the constructor set up properly, none of this is going to work. So, testing the class like this, I can do it, but it is picky. So you're going to have to be very meticulous to get this exactly spelled right, the same right, exactly everything's going to have to be exactly right, and that's what I'm going to show you. In this exercise, we're going to build it. But if you want to take a shot at doing it beforehand, that's fine. If you want to follow this, that's going to be fine as well. So let me at least get the constructor working. Let's see if we can make that look proper. So if you remember right, there's going to be a method. We can get rid of pass now that we're going to put something inside of here. But there's going to be a method inside of here that I'm going to call def underscore init underscore underscore. And that needs self, because all of our methods are going to need self. And then what else did it say? Well, we need brand name, injection rate, CO2 rate, container quantity. These actually don't matter. The caller doesn't see these. These are for my own internal use. So I can follow those names, which I will, but I don't have to. But brand name, comma, injection rate, comma, CO2 rate, comma, container quantity. I'm a pretty quick typist, so I get those in pretty quick. And all I really needed to do for the constructor is save those values. So self dot, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy and paste. And I'm going to put these on their own line. And I'm going to put self in front of each one of these. And then I'm going to say is equal to, well, what's it equal to is going to be brand name. So what I'm doing here is I'm saving in this object. And in Python, what actually happens is I dynamically create this variable to this class called brand name. And I'm assigning it the variable passed in brand name. And do the same thing for injection rate. Now, mind you, me lining these up the way I am, that's my stylistic choice. For me, seeing them all lined up like this, it makes it look nice, and it makes me happy. If yours are not lined up like this, it's okay. That's not. This format isn't anything significant, but it is important that it's indented all at the same level here. But this theoretically is my constructor. Now, when I have this set up, then I can go and test it again, which I will do here in the background. Maybe not wait for the whole thing here, but I'll go ahead and resubmit this. And so I can come to my download folder and grab that, and then I can come to my code folder and drop those out there and submit it again. And so we're going to get a different error. and it's going to go off and do its cursing, its running. But I want to point out that you might want to test this on Gradescope a few times incrementally to make sure you're on the right path. If you go through and you build the whole thing and you have something slightly wrong, you need to go figure out what's wrong with it. But it might be tougher to figure out what's right or wrong with it if you submit the whole thing, or if you do it incrementally, it's a little bit better. But while that's off running and checking it out, I can show you a few things here. So I can say, instead of UUT, unit under test, that's what this stands for, unit under test. So now this is, I'm going to build my own beverage container object here. I'm going to cheat, I already typed it. Beverage container. But now I have to pass in a brand name. So code 0, intentionally spelled wrong. So coating juice 0 calories. That's my favorite drink these days. The injection rate. Well, I'm going to 0.25. I'm going to have 25% of it be the fluid. Is that what it wants? And this is going to be, I think, let's say 11% CO2 injection. There's some numbers. I'm just kind of guessing randomly. The test case, actually, I looked up some of the numbers for. And the container quantity, let's say there's 1,000 milliliters inside of a container, for example. Doesn't matter exactly for my test. I just am putting some numbers in there that are going to get stored. But now, if I run my code, I got a syntax error because I forgot. I should have run my code before because I forgot a colon here. So that means my code over here, I failed, invalid syntax, because I had bad code. So I went to call the init. I had bad code there. So I probably should have ran it ahead of time. Good lesson, right? Right. So I can resubmit it yet again, grabbing my 2 files. And if I go to my downloads, that's where my cover sheet is. I upload it again. So I want you to see this process. I want you to get started with this process and play with this. I'm going to let you do that, and then we'll come back in the next video and check out how we can get going with with building the rest of this class.